Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference podcast. And this week we have the amazing Karl Smith, who's coming back for a second time in Dublin. Karl, how are you?
Actually, it's my third time. Remember, I won a
It
Connecticut.
is. You were there in September as well.
Yeah, and then I had to go back and do that other that business thing with the government as well. So I did 4 times in Ireland last year. You lot triggered something. As soon as you started pouring that black stuff down my neck, I was stuck coming back for more.
Yeah, between Guinness now and just the great crack that we are, why wouldn't you keep coming back?
I know, I know, I know, I know. It's good crack.
Absolutely. So you're in Dublin and you're going to be speaking on working with military and emergency services.
Yep. Yep. For I'm not going to go down the whole rabbit hole, but the long story
Uh-huh.
short is that I did 12 years in the British Army and I did 12 years as a firearms officer in the UK police. And I specialise in working with military and emergency services personnel and especially trauma. And that I'll unfold that story another day. But on the same token, some people have heard that already. But it's a case of I got into it because of a series of events that happened to me, and
Yes.
I didn't just read a book. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you've lived the experience
Yeah.
basically. So is
Yeah.
that the connection to trauma for you? Or
No.
was it the military background? Because I know you're quite that's your passionate side of hypnosis.
Oh yeah, yeah. Working with trauma, yeah.
Yeah.
Trauma. Working with post trauma. Working with all of these new acronyms to get people their new doctorates and stuff like that. I don't go for the CPTSD, and I don't go for the other PTSD things that are going on. To be quite honest, I don't really buy into PTSD anymore. I know it's a label. I know it's a button. I know it's something for people to understand it. But I tend to, and my clients love this, is simplify post trauma. What is trauma? Where does it originate from? Breaking it down. You get two types of hypnotists and hypnotherapists. You get the ones that are staunchly with the science and they can't let go and they
Yeah.
don't see a lot of clients. Then you've got people that do a lot of clients who don't bother their ass with the science but still get results. And
Yes.
that's where I sit. I'm one of those who will read something, will get an idea roughly where it wants to go, but to be quite honest, it doesn't change the way that I work because that when I'm working with trauma, I tend to get the results because I walk the walk. I do it. I've been there, and I think that's part of if you want the healing process, part of the transformational process. Because especially for me, and this is why, and I'll come on to niching in a moment, but when people look at my background of 12 years in the army, being in all of the places that your holiday representative would never send you, being a firearms officer in the police and being involved in incidents there, plus having several traumatic incidents happen during my life, physically, not which then turn emotionally. But, I think when people see that and then they think, I can make changes as well. If somebody who's been through that much crap in their life can change, well, I can. And I think that is a huge part of the process for when I'm working with trauma. That is the huge part. And that's not to say that there's therapists out there that haven't been through trauma that aren't good. I just think for me, it amplifies it. And the same process would go with somebody who's been involved with domestic violence, the same process for weight loss. Somebody who was huge and then went down to their weight and achieved it and did that. That's the same process. You're watching that hero's journey. You're watching somebody who actually walked in those steps, not somebody who just read, a small pamphlet and went, oh, right, I'm a specialist in it now. Or went away and did a weekend course, because we see that in therapists all day long. One weekend they're a pain specialist, next weekend they're a trauma specialist, the weekend after that they're a weight specialist. They just go all over the place. But
And
yeah,
and
but that's where niching. I was going to mention that, John. Is niching is really important, and I think the top tip that I will give people, just to help you with it, with what we're doing here, is, and I've always said this: if you practice now what you preach, as in practice what you came from, whether it be domestic violence, depression, anxiety, all of those. If you find out why you came into this profession, or honest with yourself, and become a good ambassador for it, that's where it really happens. We're going to come onto this later on, but past life regression, I can do, but not my bag. Weight loss, gastric bands, I can do, not my bag. Somebody walks in the door and says, oh, I've got trauma from this, this, and this, my ears prick up. that's where my passion is. And that passion and that background and that staying in my own lane has really helped me. And I see it with therapists all day long. They go into the next new thing thinking that that's where they should be. They get scattered all over the place and then lose themselves.
So you've often used the term belief and expectation, that that's what hypnosis
That's
is.
all hypnosis is.
So is your trauma background basically, and or more importantly, your passion, like the way you said your ears light up when someone mentions trauma, is that what creates the belief?
So, and that's the key thing about this, is that the belief and expectation, hypnosis is nothing but belief and expectation. Do they believe in you and do they expect something to happen? That is all hypnosis is. You can sit there and you can go through MRI machines all day long, but that's hypnosis. Whatever the little blue sparks do, I don't think anyone gives a shite anyway. But on the same token, the belief and expectation. So part of that belief and expectation, in answer to your question, actually, when people come to me for trauma, is the belief because they watch me and they expect something to happen because they see me doing lots of YouTube stuff. They see me. I've got no qualms, and most people who know me on my YouTube channel know I will go live with somebody I've never met and conduct a hypnosis session, and wherever it falls, it falls.
Yeah.
So, but do people believe that they can change? Yes. Do they expect something to happen? Yes, because they have that confidence. Do they believe that the session's going to work? They watch my YouTube channel. Do they expect something to happen? Yes, they do, because then it'll go about that way. So those belief and expectations don't just happen once, they happen several times. Yeah. The belief and expectation in hypnosis and the belief and expectation that the person is capable of doing the job.
All right. Okay. And that confidence thing you spoke about, that you can just do that anywhere, that you'll see anybody and you've never met them before or whatever, and we'll just do it live. Yeah. Where does that come from?
It's a technical term called not giving a shit.
Okay. I haven't heard that before.
That's a technical term. And I might copyright that. And I just want to pop the ego arrogance thing that people may think that is. Yeah. I've failed 1,000 times. I've failed more than that. And it's about having that belief that I can do it. I know that I can hypnotize people. And I think that through the years, that's where I've been able to refine my skills, because I've pulled out the waffle. We spoke last time about hypnosis inductions. I love Shawn Michael Andrews to bits, and I can't wait to see him. I love his family. We're very good friends.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in shock and rapid inductions anymore, because you cannot just walk up to somebody in the high street and just pull their hand and do it. You can in a classroom, you can at a hypnotherapy convention, but if I was to grab somebody, walk them down the road and put them in that situation with someone just went, right, go hypnotize that person, it's not going to happen. It's all in that build-up, that pre-talk. It's all in that theater before the actual all happens, before that, put your hand up, drop. You cannot, So for me, a rapid and a shock, when people talk about, well, one's instantaneous and one's 3 minutes, I don't believe in the shocks, definitely. I don't believe in shock inductions, for starters. And rapids, you can well and truly do 1 in 3 minutes. I could get a pre-talk done and I could get somebody in within 3 minutes. So when it comes to shock inductions, I don't buy into them.
So when you're saying rapid, you're including your pre-talk in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. 3 minutes. Yeah, I can normally get somebody in less than 3 minutes. But yeah, I hope when people watch that, they understand. I love Shawn to bits. I love Shawn's families, and I love the way he teaches, and he's going to do a grand job. He will go through that process. But when people say to me, about rapid and shocks, I always sit there and say, you can't do that. You cannot walk up to somebody in the street and do that. You can at a convention. You can because the belief and expectation's there.
Absolutely. The thing about, say, someone like Shawn's presentation is that, and we've discussed this before, and I think Melissa Tears did it in Vegas last year, of, you're a hypnotist, show me something. And I think I was telling you, it happened to me over last weekend.
Yeah.
When people see you actually hypnotizing somebody live, it's just great for business.
The thing is, mate, is that a lot of people talk the talk, but they can't actually do it. They don't walk it. Most people know there's 700 videos of me. It's probably 150 of me talking, giving ideas, but the rest of them I would strongly suggest are, and I've got actually in front of me, I've got a load of SD cards that I've got to load up as well on actually me working what you watch me working. You know, a lot of people put videos up and talk a good talk, but you never really see them do it. And I don't do it because I do it all for free. And I do it because I always remember back to the Karl that used to sit there and do this. And as you walk down the windy road, and as you allow that pressure and tension, you know,
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember sitting there doing that whole. Are they hypnotized? I don't know. Are they hypnotized? Shit, I didn't really hypnotize you. And then no, you were play acting for me. I remember that, Karl,
Right.
and that keeps me grounded. And I still remember sitting there the first time I ever hypnotized 3 people in one sitting. I was very new to hypnosis, and I was like, they're just friends. They're just doing it for me. Like, fuck. But that moment there, I still remember that. So when I'm talking, I still remember the Karl 15, 16 years ago from whenever it was. I still remember that moment. And that's why I like when I'm teaching and training and I simplify things and I take things down to their core nuts and I call people out.
Yeah.
And I do always call people out, is because I'm that Karl who's still sitting there going, fuck, like that. And I know what it's like. And one of my biggest, I'm going to go on a rant now. One of my
Go for it.
one of my biggest things about this profession, one of them, you can't industry. I'm going to call it industry, which upsets Larry Ellman nonstop. But there's no profession in, as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes, I don't like seeing people ripped off, and I don't like seeing very keen hypnotists and hypnotherapists who go on courses and are led down the garden path. Their money's taken out their back pocket, and there's fuck all at the end of it for them.
Yeah.
And they lose their confidence. So I find myself picking up the pieces of shite trainers. And I say that, and you know, John, I'm not just saying that for this.
No,
I
absolutely.
say it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I do call people out. I've got no qualms in calling it out. Proper hypnosis training with proper trainers will give you the bedrock that you need. And that I will always stand by that, because what those unscrupulous trainers do is they leave these people scattered around.
Yes.
And when you speak to them in the background, they go, well, my trainer just did this, they just did that. And then they read from this, and they did that. And then they read off a bit of card. And then they gave me this scripting. And then all I did is just sit there and read it. And I don't know whether I hypnotized or not. I was on a 9-month course and I don't know if I hypnotized anyone. The problem you have in this profession is that some people can't make money in it. So what happens is they look at trainers like me, like Freddie, like Anthony, like Shawn Michael Andrews, like Hans Rudy, like all of the people, the Ellmans, whoever. They look at all of us that go around and make a living out of what we do and think, well, I ain't getting any clients. I'm just going to get the course that I was taught. I'll tweak it a little bit and then sell that shite, because that's the only way I'm going to make money. And that is the vicious cycle you get. That is the vicious cycle. And I am always keen, and you know me, I will hypnotize anyone anywhere.
Anyway.
I don't care. Well, as long as they want.
Yeah.
But on the same token, that there. But I love to educate people and show people it can be done. It's not the days of me worrying about my ego and I need to do it. I don't do it anymore. There's no necessity for that. That fucking almost went years ago. If I'm doing street or any impromptu work, I'm doing it so then I can then break it down into its component parts to show people how. Same as in a therapeutic environment, I show people where not to go. And that's why the growth of that YouTube channel has been going through the roof, because people are like, shit, why does it not explain to me like that?
Yeah.
And
I love the explanations. My clients love the explanations as well.
Yeah, simple. Yeah, the thing is, mate, is that keep it simple, stupid. And I always say this to people, and I'll say it again. Hypnosis is very, very easy, made hard by fucking idiots. I always say that. Hypnosis is very easy. People overcomplicate it to justify huge expenses on courses.
So all of those trainers that, don't teach people, or that give the scripts and don't teach people how to understand the principles behind it. So that you can actually understand, what hypnosis is, which is really a state of brainwaves, to be honest with you. I mean, that's what it is. And it's belief and expectation that gets you to that state where someone's allowed change. How did you get from the script-based environment to the
What, to just doing rapids? Very quickly going with a trainer that understood hypnosis.
Okay.
When I first went through training, when I first went through hypnosis training, this is genuinely right. I knew the elements before I did my first ever, what I thought was accredited course. That's another rabbit hole. Anyway, so but this is the trainer on the accredited on the thing doing the element induction. Bearing in mind, I'd already met Larry and Cheryl by this time, and I knew them, and they're friends of mine, right? And I'd watched the element induction. This is how the trainer did it. And I'm going to grab your hand now. That's it. Leave your hand there. And as you just allow the hand to float it there. And as it floats there, that's it. Just hold it there for me. I shit you not, John. That was how I was taught the element induction. So
Right.
me being being a police trainer, know that you never ever call a trainer, not call them out, never speak to the trainer about what they did in front of the class. You always have a private conversation and say, look, I know the Elmans. When I said that I knew the Elmans and I knew the Elman family, I got called a liar. Fucking brilliant. And then I produced a photograph. And also as well, I mentioned about how the aphasia worked because I'd learned it from Larry and Cheryl. They said, well, we don't do it that way in this college.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay. Fucking, I'm on a losing banner. And then I get a letter warning me if I ever do it again, I'm going to get thrown off the course. So,
Right.
yeah, one of them. So yeah, so I think the key thing is that is lots of trainers, you know my feelings on scripts. It is lazy therapy, and Mike Mandel always coins that phrase. It's fast food.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fast food. It's all it is. It gives you something there and then to justify why you're paying out all this money, but actually in the long run, it will give you the shits. And that's exactly what happens. It just literally, you just get force fed. It does you something there and then, but it's not very nutritious.
Okay. Gotcha.
And when we look at scripts as well, the breakdown of a script, and I'm really sorry if you feel offended by this, but take it as some in a couple of years' time, you're going to come back to me and say, fucking now I get it, because you're not going to get it now if you're script based.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it because you're script pissed, and that's it. But the thing is that let's look at it from this way, a medical point of view. When you go to the doctor, like for me, I've had a bad neck for years, and I was always having massages on the back of my neck. What happened then?
What did you do?
I don't know what happened then. Anyway, so
Fireworks. You're setting off fireworks there.
And
Just don't do that.
It's the gods. So the thing is that I don't even know what happened then. So the key thing is that for years they were working on my neck, but it wasn't until later on that we found out it was my lower back and my hips. Mm-hmm. So the issue was not actually my neck. The issue is never the issue, and that's the way I work with it. And even in medical books, they even look at it and go, well, that's the presenting issue, but the presenting issue doesn't mean it's actually the issue. 99% of the time when a client turns up, what is coming out of their mouth and what is actually going on are two different things. Absolutely. So why would you write a script for something that isn't there?
And I completely agree with you. The only thing that people will say, and this is just, is that they're training wheels. No, you very clearly.
They're training wheels, yeah.
And you finish nearly everything you do with practice, 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 which is your way out of training wheels.
Yeah.
But
so here's the key thing for you. You're absolutely right. It's a training wheel. A script is designed for only one person and one person only. The therapist, not the client.
Yeah.
It's not designed. But we do personalized scripts. Bullshit. Because the issue is 99% of the time not going to be what that problem is. So why are you writing a script for that? Well, it gives me structure. Gives you fucking structure. Gives you the structure. Yeah. And this is where I get caught up with trainers that do this, because what they're doing is they're getting these young keen people who want to help and change people's lives, giving them a sheet of paper and leading them down into doom. That just literally not giving them the confidence. And you will find it that trainers, and I do this on a daily basis, and Freddie and Anthony and Mike Mandel and Katie Bevans Marks and Shawn Michael Andrews, we all pick up the pieces because people sit there and throw shite out all day long. They sit there and go, this script's not working, and I've asked all these hypnosis groups for scripts, and I'm just going to go back to the supermarket. And that is exactly what happens. It's exactly what happens. I'm going to go back to my old job. I can't make any money in this profession because the trainer that taught them didn't have the confidence to do it, didn't have the balls to. I've done it again.
That happened to you quite a lot.
Yeah, and didn't have the they never really prove themselves, socially prove themselves. They'll prove themselves in the classroom. That's brilliant. That's amazing. We can all do that. I mean, my 13-year-old boy can do that. Anyone can hypnotize anyone in a classroom. Anyone can hypnotize anyone at a conference because that's what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? But if you're a hypnotist and you walked into I don't know, the fire brigade union's annual meeting and started doing it, you're going to have a little bit of a little thing going on because the belief and expectation isn't there.
And you have that really nervous client that walks in who's a bit afraid.
Yeah. And it's one of my bugbears, and I have got no qualms in calling shite trainers out. I really haven't. I think that that those young people looking at hypnosis and hypnotherapy, if you're looking for training, the first question should be, are you script based? If they're script based, what you should do is realize that it's like McDonald's, it's like KFC. It's going to serve you a purpose for a very short period of time, but you're going to have to keep eating that shit until eventually you pop out the other side. Or you could go away and have a wholesome meal with proper ingredients
and understand the principles
and understand the foundations, basic foundations. Initially, even going back to it, John, not a lot of people teach that just belief and expectation is just the foundation of hypnosis. A lot of people don't teach that, and we've known that for hundreds of years. But people negate that because they don't understand it. The reason they don't understand it is because they don't do it. The reason they don't do it is because they were shit therapists. And there you go.
There's no answer to that.
I don't mind, mate. I'm these people keep me in business because, at the end of the day, but I just don't like seeing people wasting their money. I don't like it when I see people getting people ripped off.
I mean, this is one of the things that I love, and it's one of the things I love about the conference is that it's starting to open up people to non-script based and feelings and understanding that the issue is never the issue. So, if one script won't do, you need to kind of understand the principles that are behind it, and then you can start to apply whatever it is that needs to work. I mean, I use emotional detox all the time. It gets rid of so many problems in one fell swoop. Which also leads me on to the next thing I was going to ask you about, which is regression, because when we're doing emotional detox, there isn't memories don't necessarily have to be relived in the way that.
So when you're dealing with trauma, you don't have to traumatize somebody to do it. Now, I have this discussion with Hans Rudy. Hans Rudy is he does a lot of regression training. But coming back to it, Hans Rudy's a good friend of mine, right? Me and Hans get on really well. I just don't like regression. He loves regression. I don't do it. And the reason I don't do it, and some people may say, well, that's not a very good excuse not to do it, Karl. No, but I've realized that you don't need to do regression to cause to do it. And that's only if you believe in certain things as well. Like there is only one incident. I firmly believe, irrespective, and somebody wrote something the other day on a wall, but I firmly believe that trauma is an accumulation of errors, not a single point. Now, in my case, it wasn't a single point that did it. It was the accumulation. This is the way that I see things. With my scenario, and the reason that I look at it differently is that I had an amazing childhood. My parents were great to me. Odd foot up my ass. But I was a young lad, cheeky gobby, but nothing spectacular, right? So I grew up in an age where even when I used to get caned at school for fucking hell, I'm only 50 years old, and, people will be like that. Oh my God, you got caned at school? I'm like, yeah, that was normal. That was, but there was nothing that really, there was nothing. It was an accumulation of errors, let's just say, all the way through. Nothing special. I mean, some people might sit here and be like, you got caned at school? That's disgusting. Unfortunately, that's the way schooling used to be.
It used to be, same here.
You just get battered. That was it. But to be honest, there was nothing that really did. So these are build up. Yes, being hit with a cane when you're a kid is traumatic, but it's not really, it's something that you forgot about by lunchtime, to be brutally honest. You went home, told your mum, and then she slapped you as well for doing what you were doing anyway. But the thing is that I'm not condoning violence, by the way, for anyone toddlers off. But this whole compression happened. And then all of a sudden I went and joined the military. And then an enormous amount of things happened during my military career. And then I joined the police, and a lot of things that I saw and did whilst in the police were things that, they just are. You're dealing with road traffic collisions, you're dealing with sudden deaths, you're dealing with people that take their lives, you're dealing with, all types of manner of things. So you've got this build up. And I was actually all right. In fact, my ex-wife at the time used to say, I actually never noticed anything different about you from when we used to go to school with each other. She said, well, actually, I never, apart from, you just got quirky, this, that, and the other. There was nothing really special. Mm. When I got hit by that drink driver, it was like my body had gone, that's it, one more thing. So to say that it was one incident, and people go searching for this one incident in the past.
Yes.
When actually it could be just an accumulation of little things. And this is why I give the analogy of the pressure cooker, is it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then one thing happens and then does it. So I think regression of causes sometimes have it the wrong way round. And that's why I did the emotional detox. That's why I designed that emotional detox, the fights technique, the way I did. Because from my experience of sitting there, somebody who's been through an enormous amount of trauma through my life and seen some of the most horrific things like ethnic cleansing and, it doesn't matter. I don't need to go into it. But the long story short is I've seen an enormous amount. Yeah. The thing is that there is no need to regress me, because the thing that was the problem was the car accident at the end. I needed to change the car accident, and then that collapsed the rest of it. When I had a therapist,
which is complete reverse to
reverse regression.
Yeah.
When actually, if you look at it in a reverse cycle, that it's backwards. Why would I need to regress somebody to cause when the incident that actually caused the majority of the trauma was actually only in the past 6 months, was only actually in the past, 3-4 months. And that's why I reverse engineer it that way, because I believe that all of these accumulated things build up. There was nothing spectacular. Horrible things, but nothing spectacular. The big one was the one that tripped me over and sent me into La La Land, into booze, into drug, into booze, into tramadol, into suicidal tendencies, all of those things there, because I didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know anything about this. So the key thing is that I reverse engineer it. Now I'm open to that something happened years ago in people's lives, an incident that happened, and that's fair dues, but they probably still remember it. Not everybody, so I do give its dues, but on the same token, I would strongly suggest that that most people with a having a good chat with them would understand where it originates, or roughly where it is. But then comes the thing again, the issue's never the issue. So when people are going searching for something that may not be the problem, I have a problem with that. The other thing as well is, unless you are in an environment with somebody who is really, really good at regression, people like Roy Hunter, the legend, Hans Rudy, not so much of a legend. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking, Hans Rudy. And you've got many people that specialize it, and they teach it properly. They teach it, in a really, really powerful way, and they get results, right? Brilliant. It's when you get people that don't understand regression, drop people into trauma, make them relive it. Oh my, John, I can't tell you how many times, and Barry Neal will tell you this as well. We cannot tell you the amount of times where people have regressed people back and then dumped them in there and left them in there and left them in a shit state. I've had phone calls before saying, I've just left a hypnotist and I'm in a really bad way. That has happened an enormous amount of times to me, and Barry Neal as well. We've had people that have gone on a very highly expensive course that's offered here in England. I'm not going to mention the name because they're very legal. But we had one where they got them back, they regressed them back, and they couldn't find anything. So they said, go back and find your father. And they went, and he was still alive. And we know this because the person told me. And they went, yeah, I went back and found a happy time with my father. And they said, no, forgive him. And they went, well, and during this session, this person was telling me, but I don't need to forgive him. My dad didn't do anything wrong. You need to forgive your father for what he did. But he didn't do it. Then brings them out of hypnosis. Now they think that their father's done something.
Well,
that's the fucking stupidity, mate. This is the dangers of ill-trained people when they're doing stuff like this. This is the problem, is they go spend £10,000 on a course. They think that they're Johnny Good Doodle when they come out of it. But actually, they've just been ripped off, and they could have bought a book on Amazon for £34 and done the whole course. There's people out there spending 10 grand on a course at the moment that you could actually go to Amazon and pick up for £34 because it isn't their actual course. It was actually done by somebody else. Yeah. And that's the key thing about it is that people are sent out there and they're dangerous. You know, it's the same as a gun, mate. You know, I spent 24 years of my life with hanging around with guns. I'm a very well-known firearms instructor, tactical firearms instructor. Guns aren't dangerous. The fucking idiots that hold them are dangerous, but the guns aren't dangerous.
Yeah, I understand.
A gun's a lump of plastic. Yeah. It's not until you stick it in a hairy chimp's hand that it all goes really wrong.
I get that. And I also get the point. I mean, look, one of the differences, say, between hypnosis and psychotherapy, where you have to go back over the old traumas continuously. I mean, that's scary for people and it's unnecessary. But as hypnotists, we should be able to, you know, minimize that.
This is the key thing that hypnotists should be educating people is that we are not psychotherapists. Or if you are a psychotherapist, good luck to you. But I tend to differentiate because the way that psychologists, the way that psychotherapists work is about going back, talking about shit and just keep going on about it. And I don't mean to be rude to you psychotherapists out there or psychiatrists that maybe listen to this, but you do, right? That's what you do. You get people to talk back. And whereas hypnosis is different, we don't have to talk about it. You don't actually have to know what the problem is. You can actually get the subconscious, unconscious monkey brain, which is another story for another day. You can get the subconscious, unconscious monkey brain to deliver you on a plate without even asking a person a question.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's when we talk about clinical, when we talk about clean, hypnosis is by far the cleanest way of doing things.
Absolutely. And I mean, think about it. If problem was logical, people would have it sorted. So it's in actually the emotional mind. It's not logical.
Yeah, and that's why I train many psychologists and psychiatrists and psychotherapists, because they go, well, how can you get to the root, if you like, root cause, which I don't believe in anyway. How do you get to the root cause, or how do you get to that thing? Well, probably because you've been taught it's a root cause. There's no such thing as a root cause, which is going to upset people watching this as well. But when you reverse engineer it, and if anyone even if people watch this and go, oh, Karl's an arsehole, I don't want to listen to that because my trainer said so, that's fine. Start reverse engineering your sessions. And then you'll start realizing that you're chasing things in the past that may not have happened. The actual transitional point, the point of no return, probably only happened a couple of months ago. It was a series of shit that happened. And that's why when I'm working, you always see me let go of any negative feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, or sensations you've held on to over the past few weeks, the past few months, the past few years. Because what I'm doing is I'm collapsing it backwards until eventually I come to the point where it happened, not go back and chase something. I collapse it all the way down until it presents. It was that. Yeah. That's the way it works. And do you know what? It works we should never say that. It's not a silver bullet. It works 98% of the time because I reverse engineer it, because so many people are taught, let's regress back to something when it's not actually in the past. It actually happened now. It's a series of events that happened.
It's a very powerful technique, and I know it because I use it often.
Mate, I get emails every day on people that have done my emotional detox. And for those who haven't got a clue, go to my YouTube channel, Hypnotic Masterminds, look out for the emotional detox technique. You'll see it happen. At the end of the day, it's a very simple but highly powerful technique that was born out of the way that you're listening to me talk now. Yeah. And for those script people and script trainers and those people who sit there and say, no, we regress to everything, I'm sorry, but I think you're wrong. I'm probably wrong, but on the same token, I'm getting huge results in a very quick space of time because I've reverse engineered it.
Well, on the basis that the mind is a model, right? And nobody can actually fully understand it anyway. So that's we have to work on models, and that model works, full stop.
And this is a key thing as well, you know, is that a lot of people sit there and go like this. They go, you know, they sit there and talk about the subconscious. They talk about the unconscious. They talk about the this, that, and the other. Well, nobody's ever found the subconscious. Nobody's ever found the conscious. They've never found them. They are a model and a metaphor. Everything that we do is a model and a metaphor. And if you conclude that all models and metaphors that we use are wrong, then guess what? We use them because some people on this now are now listening to this going, I can't fucking handle this. He's telling me what? There's no such thing as the subconscious, unconscious. Nobody's ever found it. They're a model and a metaphor that help us to do what we need to do. It doesn't mean they're real. Nobody's ever gone, I found it, and chased it around on a little MRI. Oh, I found the subconscious. Oh, the subconscious must be. Nobody's ever found it. No. But we talk about it and people teach it like it's verbatim because they don't think They don't think, well, actually, it's not real. Ask any doctor. They've never found it.
No, you can hold a heart in your hand, but not your mind.
Exactly.
You know, it's
Exactly.
simple like that.
And that's the point, mate. And, so many people get led. They're like, it's like watching, I used to live in Hameln, actually. I used to live it. So when I used to live in Germany, so I used to live near Hameln, which is the Pied Piper of Hameln. So when I sit there sometimes watching people as, not that you're all rats, by the way, but you're all following. You're all following. People are just following just for the good measure of doing it. I've got a great idea. Then they all sit there following along and they all fall off the cliff like little lemons. That's so unfair. But on the same token, is that I am passionate about this profession. I am passionate about what I do, and I don't like people being led down a garden path by the pipers. And that's the key thing about this, is that I've nigh on done. If you put me in a room with somebody, and Mike would do the same, and Barry Neal would do the same, and Freddie would do the same. When people say to me, I've got a brand new technique, within about 3 or 4 minutes, I can break down that technique and tell you its original origins.
Yeah.
So, and I've always maintained with kinetic shift.
I always keep saying this. There's nothing new in hypnosis.
There's nothing new in hypnosis. The other thing about this is the key thing about this as well is that I always maintain with my technique, kinetic shift, it is 7 ideas that are put together with my perspective. I've always been honest about that. It's these ideas are out there. I've put them together and said, if you do them this way, it amplifies it. That's all it is. It's got an element of mesmeric stuff, an element of spiritual, if people like it. It's got an element of, all the other bits and bobs, confidence is main, And I always maintain that as well. Confidence is key. Confidence is more important than any certification on the planet.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
This office here has got no certificates whatsoever around it. None. But I get clients all the time, and they're not interested in my certificates because I'm out there showing people I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just on that, John, anyone watching this video, and I say how many times have I said this? If you haven't got any clients, it's because you're not telling people about who you are. People in this profession buy personalities. People buy people. They're not interested in these certificates. Yes, they may want to know, they may want to see something that's brilliant, but that's part of the belief and expectation. But on the same token, is that people buy people. So get yourself a small camera, sit down, record a session with somebody and put it on YouTube. And then when people are talked about it, put that link on your website so people can watch you working. That's the power. That begins the belief and expectation. And that's where it starts. So if you've not got any clients and you've got no videos up, that's the reason why. You've got to educate people that you can do it. All the top ones will stick themselves out there.
And you've always said that.
But on the same token, I'm not sitting there saying I'm one of the top ones in the world. But what I'm saying is that people who can, and they will show it, and they will show the rough with the smooth. I show rough with the smooth. I'll put ones that don't work, and I'm prepared to do that.
And I mean, last year you dealt with a lot of marketing type stuff, and Stephen McGill has dealt with a lot of marketing stuff because, as he said, you're the best therapist in the world, but if nobody knows you exist, then
yeah, same as any business. You can be a plumber, you can be a mechanic, but if nobody knows you're there, it's pretty boring. Do you know what I mean?
So when you're giving your talk on Monday or on Sunday, you're dealing with emergency services. Is it the families behind that, or is it the?
We've discussed this before. Predominantly. I mean, I've been involved in most of the police shootings that have happened. So I've been involved in that little brief interlude just then. I've been involved in most of the police shootings that have happened in the United Kingdom, ones that you read about and all that. And you tend to, when you're working with police or emergency services, people tend to dive straight in. And Gary talks about this with cancer as well. People just tend to look directly at the person that was involved when actually it's the foundation that's failing. And it happens with drug abuse, it happens with alcohol addiction. People tend to go, I'll go work with the person with the alcohol addiction. Yeah, and that's all well and good, but actually it's the family, the foundation that need the more support than the person who's doing it, because the alcoholic, the gambler, the person with the trauma, the one who's got the cancer, tend to be just getting on with their own life and think that the rest of the planet is screwed and they're just being mitherers. They're just being a pain in the ass. Yeah, that lot there, they can't, they just keep annoying me, Whereas the family are broken by what they've done, because the person still doesn't realize that they're still causing carnage. So I tend to work more predominantly with more with the families of any incidents rather than the person. And because this comes back to threshold, and a lot of therapists don't understand threshold. And, you know, and this is another thing that's not taught properly as well. Not everyone that comes to you and pays you money wants to change. And that's one of the key things that, you know, and I've always maintained that, you know, people pay me a lot of money not to change. That's a fact. And when people don't get that, there was a discussion in a group the other day about this. No, but if they pay you £100, of course they want to change. No, they fucking don't. They want to go back to tell people, I paid £100 with that Karl Smith, who's on the internet, who you sent me to, and he couldn't even change me. I'll carry on smoking as a martyr, because they want to carry on smoking. That's what it is. They want to keep doing the nasty things to themselves because they want to be the martyr. They want to do that. And that's one of the key things. Talking about threshold is really, really important. But yeah, you do get people that don't want to change. So it's one of those things. You do get people that pay you a lot of money to not do it. So,
well, I mean, your talk is on the military and emergency services behind the armor.
Sorry for diverging then, but even still, you know, what I meant by that is just coming back on track. Is that even with the firearms officers or emergency services personnel or whoever I'm working with, they're normally walking around and not giving a shit. They don't realize something's wrong. When I went AWOL after the car accident, when my head went AWOL after that, absent without leave, when it went off and toddled off somewhere else, is that it was everyone else that was being punished, not me, because I was right, the world was wrong. You know, and what do you mean I can't drink a bottle of Jack Daniels today, you fucking idiot? You know, what do you mean I can't have twice the amount of tramadol I should have in a day? If I want to do it, I'll do it. But that's where you are. You know, until people realize there's an issue, there isn't an issue.
Yeah, and it's funny actually, because like one of the things I've always said about the job that we do is when we help somebody, there's the ripple effect, but you're actually dealing with the ripple effect before someone's ready to be dealt with.
Yeah. See, this is the key thing that when I'm working is that they don't realize that I'm reverse engineering everything.
You just have, and it's another example of it. Yeah.
I just reverse engineer it. I look at something and go, right, where could this be going wrong? Right, they're looking for something that's happened in the past when it actually could have happened now. And it's just the accumulation of shit that's happened that's causing the nervous system to start to break down. Or, you know, why look at the person that's presenting when it's the problem in the background?
I love it. I'm looking forward to this.
Just reverse engineer. But people are so hypnotized into bullshit that we've been led along for years that they can't do the reverse engineering. They refuse to. And there's people here that'll go, I'm going to be using regression to cause. That's fine, but just don't use a fucking hammer for everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it does get back to that whole thing of just understanding hypnosis and understanding the issues and the issue. And the more tools you have, the better.
Yeah. Well, the key thing is, the key thing is, I hope I've offended some people. I hope you go away and think about it. And I hope that if you don't think about it and you say, well, no, Karl's talking shit, that's fair dues. In a couple of years' time, when you sit there and go, fuck, you owe me a pint.
That's fair. Not Guinness, though.
No, not Guinness. I won't be drinking Guinness by then.
Listen, Karl, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to your talk on April 20th and 21st. It's going to be a fantastic weekend. Loads of fun, loads of information, loads of community coming together, and just and have a great time.
Yeah, brilliant.
So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we will see you in Dublin on April 20th. Please like and subscribe, and tickets are available at www.irishhypnotherapyconference.ie. Have an absolutely wonderful day.